Since you clicked this video, you're probably wondering how to write a metallic hardcore song. Maybe you've never really tried it before. Maybe you have, but you're just looking to get some new ideas. Whatever the case, I think you might find this video helpful because we're gonna go over 5 principles or techniques that will help you writing your metallic hardcore song. And we'll be writing a song together, riff by riff, while we're going over these techniques in this video. You can play along as well, as there will be tabs on the screen. So if this is your first time writing hardcore, maybe go watch this other video I made first, because in that video we really go over the basics and this video kind of builds on that. But before we get into the video, I know people tend to disagree about genres a lot, so maybe it's a good idea to explain what I mean when I say metallic hardcore. So for me, it's almost like a synonym for metalcore, but not all metalcore. So I'm definitely not talking about that type of more melodic metalcore. Bands like Old Parkway Drive, August Burns Red, Killswitch Engage. I'm talking about less melodic and more dark and heavy type of metalcore, with bands like All Out War, Archangel, Morning Again, etc. I feel like metallic hardcore is just a modernized term for what was basically called metalcore in the 90s. With that out of the way, let's start with our first principle. So the first principle is the scale to use to write this type of hardcore. And I'm going to show you a scale that is very widely used in this genre. I'm not saying it's the best or the only scale you can use to write this type of music, but I'm saying if you don't really know where to begin, sticking to these notes will be safe. It's really going to help you instantly create that metallic hardcore vibe. Oh, and unlike in the previous video where we were playing in D standard, we're now in drop C tuning. So you get C, G, C, F, A, D from top to bottom. And for those that watched that other video, the scale we're going to be talking about is pretty similar to the scale we talked about in that video. And the notes you use on your lowest string, 0, 1, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Since we're in drop, you can just bar to get power chords too. And then we have 5, 6 on the second string, 4, 5, 7, 8 on the third string, and 6 and 7 on the fourth string. And I'm not even gonna make that choke. So many bands will use that scale and create some type of like a dark and eerie intro before they really get into their song, right? And it can be a clean guitar intro too, or maybe even an acoustic one, but they'll go over these notes. This is the scale they'll use, not only for their intro, for the entire song, but you can really go over these notes and create that type of vibe, you know? Right, you can just play around with that a little bit and try to find a vibe that you're happy with. But before we write the intro to our song, let's look at one more example of a technique that's very widely used in metallic hardcore. That's harmonies, and more specifically, third harmonies. Again, they're obviously not the only harmonies used in this genre. Fourths and fifths are used very often as well. But harmonizing in thirds is particularly characterized by metallic hardcore, right? And you'll hear it very often. So when you riff, when you play those higher notes, the second guitar player will sometimes play the third note relative to the note that you are playing as the first guitar. First guitar player, for example, will play 5, 6, 5 on the second string. And then the second guitar player will play the third relative to those notes. So. And now I'm playing the harmonics, you know, simultaneously on one guitar. Of course, if you have 2 guitar players, it's really cool to have that left and right panning effect where one plays one and the other plays the higher harmony. So let's write the intro to our song together using that scale and those harmonies. You'll notice we only harmonize those higher notes, but when we play the open string, we're not harmonizing that, and both guitars will just play the open string. Great, we now have an intro. Let's move on to the third technique. For lack of a better word, I'll call this the metallic groove. But basically what I mean is that in this genre, very often the open lowest note is combined with a lot of higher notes, and that combination really makes the riff. So for example, that open low note is often then palm muted, you know, like chugged a little bit, and a certain rhythm or groove is used. So this is where we stray from standard hardcore punk a little bit, which mainly uses, you know, faster chords strummed really quickly. Here we're really, you know, chugging a little bit on that low C string in this case, because I'm in drop C, and switching it up with those higher notes. That way it becomes a bit more groovy and a bit more, you know, metal infused, hence the term metallic. We'll use this technique to write the first riff after our intro. So we now have our intro and that groovy metallic part. Now just like in a normal hardcore punk song, in this genre you'll often also have that faster D-beat type part or riff. But for this genre, we're making it a bit more metallic by adding in this next technique, which is galloping. And just like in the previous riff, we're going to use a lot of those palm muted open notes on the lowest string. But this time we'll be applying a certain picking technique to it. So we're going to continuously play 3 fast 16th notes followed by arrests. So what you do is down, up, down, rest, down, up, down, rest on your lowest string. And you also palm mute those notes, by the way. So like I said, you want to use alternative picking, because if you're going to be down picking that, it's going to get really fast and it's going to be very difficult. So then when you speed that up a little bit, now, of course, it would be a bit silly if the next riff is literally only that. So again, we're going to be a little bit creative with it, try to create a bit of a rhythm, a bit of a groove, and combine it again with those higher notes from the same scale that we talked about earlier in the video. Right, now you're welcome to pause the video and, try to find something cool yourself, try to get a little bit creative with it and try something that makes it unique. But I think we're ready to write the next part of our song. Now, not every metallic hardcore song needs a breakdown, but let's be honest, most do, and for the sake of this video, I think it would be cool to add one now as well. So before we add that breakdown, let's add one more technique to it, and that's the pinch harmonic. Now there's 2 ways to go about these. The first way is to play the note, and then after you plucked it with your pick, you let your thumb hit the same string, and that creates that harmonic effect. So this is what it will look like in slow motion. Right, so what I'm trying there is I'm plucking it, and then after that I'm hitting it with my thumb. But that's what it would look like in slow motion. But obviously when you're playing it fast, that's one motion, one action, and not 2. So you want to grab your pick in a certain way so that after plucking it, your thumb will automatically hit that string right away in one motion. Now this is something you need to try a couple of times, and it's best to, try out some different angles with your hand and try to find that sweet spot that works for you. And after that, it's just a matter of practice and muscle memory to keep hitting it every time. Now the second way to do it is a lot easier in my opinion, but it won't work on every fret. So it will only work on a fret where you can also do natural harmonics. One of those. And what you do is you play a normal harmonic by just putting your finger on there, not pushing it down all the way. You just put it on there on the 3rd fret, close to the fret itself. When you put your finger on there, you pluck it and you let it go. And that creates a natural harmonic. But what you can do is after you hear that harmonic, you can actually start bending it down. You get that same pinch harmonic effect when you do that. So when you hear the harmonic, that's when you bend it. So for our breakdown, we'll stick to the lower notes from our scale, and we're gonna play power chords again, which is pretty easy since we're in drop tuning now, so you can just bar those chords like that. And we'll add some of those pinch harmonics too. There you have it, 5 principles or techniques to help you write your own metallic hardcore song. Let's put them all together and play the entire track we wrote. That's gonna be it for this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know by leaving a like or a comment down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.